Hello, Ray Crew. I'm Nicole Mabry, and I work in product marketing for Ray Crew. I am so excited to be with you this evening to welcome you to our third Array Crew conversations with the crew members from NAOMI. Now, keep in mind that our conversation may contain spoilers, but don't worry, you have plenty of time to catch up on all the episodes of NAOMI before the new episodes return on April 26th. So before we get started, let's place ourselves in NAOMI's world, Puerto Suego, by watching the trailer.
Tonight's the best night of our lives. Can you feel it? I can feel it.
Guys, check this out. NAOMI runs the #3 Superman fan site in the world.
Brazil side is #1, but I'm coming for them.
And I will flying high, gonna feel like this forever.
For someone so fly, you're sure into some nerdy stuff.
Dude can shoot laser beams from his friggin' eyes. But the best part? He's adopted. Just like me.
What's going on?
Something to do with Superman.
The bad guy throws Superman onto a car.
He had a cape and everything.
And then Superman knocks him out cold.
So Superman grabs him and then flies off.
You've never been one to just faint.
I'm fine.
He just came out of nowhere.
He was fighting someone?
It looks so real. Naomi, can you believe it?
I missed it. All I heard was buzzing. There's something bigger going on here.
Maybe it was just a prank gone wrong.
That's what I want to find out.
Fine, but we're gonna need help.
Who could have pulled off a stunt like this? Why did they do it? How did they do it? Please, can you just give us some answers?
I can't give you answers when you're not asking the right question.
We have to keep searching and asking questions.
I'm guessing for that Superman website of yours? You know what I find interesting? Out of all the comic book characters in the world, you chose Superman.
What is the question, Naomi?
The question is, who am I?
So now if I can take a moment for some personal thanks. As the mother of a beautiful, braided, magical Black girl who is still learning to control her powers, NAOMI is appointment television in our house. So I just want to thank all of the crew members from NAOMI, all of you that are here with us on the panel tonight, all of you that are here with us in the Facebook group, and all of the crew members that are everywhere for bringing your skill and your talent to create this on our television screens each week. It means so much to so many of us, and I just wanted to thank you personally for that. And before I get too emotional, I'm going to toss it to the panel. I'll introduce RIKA Nakanishi, who is the production designer. She is joining us from Japan, where it is already tomorrow, and the future is looking very bright. We also have Elizabeth Davidovich, who is our stunt coordinator, bringing all the action, and Amber Burnett McLean, our camera operator, who is fresh, and I do mean fresh offset in Atlanta. So thank you for joining us this evening, and I will go ahead and kick it off with some questions. I want RIKA to begin by introducing yourself to our crew members and tell us more about your work on NAOMI.
Yes, hi, my name is RIKA. I'm a production designer on NAOMI, speaking, yes, from Japan. It's Friday here, 9 a.m. So what was the specific question?
Just tell us more about your role on NAOMI and
okay.
Just fill us in a little bit about that.
Oh, okay. I worked on NAOMI from episode 2 till throughout the end. So it's 12 episodes. The first pilot episode was designed by amazing production designer Marisa. She sort of create the world and set the tone, and I took it over and then do the rest. And some of the crew came from original pilot, and stay there, and some of them are new, but we had a wonderful art department to execute all this story visually.
Excellent. Amber, what about you? Can you introduce yourself and tell us about your work on NAOMI?
Yes. Hi, I'm Amber Burnett McLean. I was the B camera operator on NAOMI, and I was there from the pilot for the remainder of the rest of the season, first season. Yeah. I operate the camera.
Very important. Very important. It's how the images make it all the way to our screen. So great to have you here as well. Liz, can you introduce yourself and talk about your role?
Sure. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Davidovich. I was the stunt coordinator for episodes 2 through 13. I designed the action as well as trained the actors to take on the roles of the superhero. Speaking of which, I want to quickly sidebar. Amber, you did way more than just B camera. Amber was my stunt camera operator. So whenever you see that camera moving really energetically, that's Amber.
Thank you.
We talk about your camera move all the time.
All the time. We had
all the time.
Team. And one of the things that we always say in stunts is, we've got our dance partners when we're fighting, and one of our dance partners is the camera and the camera operators. So both Amber and Alfeo, who was our A-cam operator, amazing dance partners. So I just cannot say enough nice things about our camera department.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes.
Great. Can we keep on this this vibe with the collaboration? And the roles are so different, but they are always intertwined. So how is it that you worked with each other on this panel and also other members of the crew? What was that collaboration like? And can you just share some more of that experience with the group?
It was all encompassing. We were in each other's lives 24/7. We were constantly texting, emailing, Zooming constantly. So it was just a constant integration, because as we got into it, especially starting episode 3, because that's when we were really in the whole meat grinder portion of it, where we were doing post for one episode, shooting one, and then prepping for the next. And so there was constantly an ongoing dialogue between, I call them all the grownups, all the people in charge, the decision makers. And then that trickle down effect, we were literally having sidebar conversations anywhere and everywhere we could. We would be in the lunch line talking about, and then the costumes for this, and then the props for that. And so it was this completely integrated, more so than I've experienced on pretty much any other. I've been doing this for 18 years now, and this was a really unique experience in just how integrated we were, to the point where we knew what everybody was doing on the weekends, and we were all up in each other's business, because that's the only way that we could get the job done, was any spare moment that we could find. Let's talk about this rig. Let's talk about that setup. Let's talk about this special effect, because there's so much that is going on behind the scenes that even as much visual stimulation as what's on the screen, there's a million things happening behind it that you never see, hear, or get to experience. And those are all those conversations that RIKA and I had in private. Even we were getting input from RIKA about skateboarding stuff, because she had that value as well. So there were definitely a lot of times where, even if it wasn't our department, if we had input or value to add, it was received. And so it created this very familial environment, which I think was a very healthy atmosphere, considering our number one was 17 years old and still a minor. So, and I don't want to speak too much for RIKA and Amber, but I know that we definitely learned a lot about each other, more than just professionally. It was all consuming.
No, I back Liz. It did become like a family. I think Liz gifted me, I think her first stunt, she gifted me my first knee pads. It's after I did this thing, and I feel like I learned a lot. This was my first show where I did fight scenes. So thank you, Liz, for those. And
Thank you.
but it was very everyone was approachable. And with the collaborations, it's like important to take in the world, like in the world that like RIKA creates. And because we will walk on set and we'll look around and be like, whoa, like she was like, she put her foot in this, like you were in your bag the whole time. And that just helped create the world and like bring the energy of what what we're presenting, what you guys see on television. So yeah, everyone was approachable, and it wasn't like it's very few egos, so it made you want to collaborate and like share ideas and bounce ideas off. So this is good. Yeah.
Great. That's good to hear that it was such a positive environment. And I've kind of gotten that a little bit of a feel for that just being in the Facebook group, because there are so many NAOMI crew members that are part of the Facebook group. So shout out to all of you who just continue to reflect what a great experience it was for everyone. But Amber mentioned these environments that RIKA helped to create. So RIKA, I just want to talk to you some more about all those different worlds that you allowed us to step into, environments that were part of this earth, that, a typical American high school, or parallel earths, or environments that are kind of based in science fiction, like Dr. Bell's lab, Star Labs. What were the challenges, and what were some of the, best parts of creating some of those spaces?
So, okay, the first, Amber keeps saying RIKA, but not me alone, because it's a teamwork. You create massive stuff. You can only do so much, because we have a great teamwork that makes the art department, to execute the ideas and story. Since this was sci-fi, yes, Starla was one of the interesting set, and also the set that I was looking forward to design and build. And there's, as Liz and Amber knows, because the biggest challenge is we get script very late, which means you don't have enough time to prep. You can, and also you're so busy, caught up with the previous episode stuff. So that's why you can pre-start, much earlier. And this is a lot of challenging, and not just the time-wise, budgetary issues too, because you have only a certain amount of money to, spend. But other than that, I luckily had a great art department in Atlanta, and we all worked, teamwork was excellent. So that's why I could deliver each set.
Great. It sounds like some of those constraints brought about some creativity and some camaraderie there within your group.
Yes.
Great. So let's back up a little bit more and talk about where your interest in working in the industry overall came from. Amber, do you want to tell us about how you became interested in becoming a camera operator, or how you got started in the business?
Sure. I actually started acting. And I did theater, and it was during the time of like when web series became a thing, when the first like Awkward Black Girl and everything. And so I was in a web series because at the time we just felt like there wasn't enough content like starring Black people in Atlanta at the time that we, had a real lot of characters. And so I got behind the camera one day. The A-second, actually, Alex Hooper, he shot the episode of the web series, and I asked him about the camera, and then like the next week, and I went and bought my own camera. And then I started doing short films, and I wanted to DP, but I also want to become more technical, know more about cameras, building cameras and lenses. So I became a prep technician at Commander in Atlanta, and then I was a camera PA for two features, and I just went from utility to second AC and to start operating. And I've always, like, while I was working in a union as a utility or a second, I always was shooting projects on the weekend as an operator. So I think that's how I got to, I think that's why my journey went a little fast. I was always operating, and yeah, and that's how I became an operator.
Great. What about you, Liz? How did you get interested in the business, and how did you get your start?
I got interested in the business when MTV started naming the directors, giving credits of the directors for the music videos. And that was my first awareness of, oh, this is a thing that people do. And so I started realizing that my favorite music videos were all directed by the same people over and over again. And I had this, as a competitive gymnast and dancer, I loved these very short form worlds where nothing had to make sense. I mean, like the story didn't have to make sense. It could just be a series of images, and there was so much freedom in that. So as a gymnast and choreographer or dancer at the time, I thought I would eventually grow up to be a choreographer and then direct music videos. The Bjork Oh So Quiet video, which was like a big Broadway kind of a production number, was one of the bigger influences. When I moved to Atlanta, I came up for the Olympics, and I was still competing in gymnastics at the time. But Atlanta had such a strong independent film community. I just started getting involved in independent film and just whatever needed to be done. I was holding a boom. I was doing makeup, which if you were my friend, you know how funny that is. I was doing anything and everything just to be involved. And then after a couple of years of doing that, I had an aha moment of all things watching Tomb Raider, where she's jumping around in the bungee scene, because that spoke to everything in my background. I had aerial training. I was an athlete. I loved the artistic process. And all of a sudden, I just had this realization that stunt people are the professional athletes on set. And as soon as I had that awareness, the universe created these opportunities, and I just stepped right into it. So right place, right time. But I do enjoy telling people that I was a competitive gymnast, so I was already sort of predisposed to masochism, because you have to enjoy the pain. Like you have to find some satisfaction because it hurts. It's punishing. But once I discovered that that was a thing, that I never looked back. I absolutely love doing what I do. I absolutely love helping to draw that physical performance out of our actors. And I love creating that seamless world where we really believe that this girl is doing that fighting and beating up that guy and making the audience really believe it and feel it. It's so satisfying. It's so enjoyable. So yeah, I got started through competitive gymnastics, and then I just followed my instincts, and everything that I did it with integrity. I did it with sincerity, and I give that credit to where I am today.
That's so wonderful that you were able to bring parts of yourself from all different parts of your life into, doing something that you love now. RIKA, what about you? How did you begin as a production designer in the industry?
Well, actually, you don't begin as a production designer, as you know. I was born and raised in Japan, and growing up here, I was very misfit child. So I was watching a lot of cinemas. That was my sort of like escape from the reality. Growing in Japan is quite tough. I mean, it's a wonderful place to, visit, but living is another different story. But anyway, so cinema was my escape. And then that's how I got into, television shows, motion pictures, and watching a lot of foreign films. That's how I learned my English as well. But I was also painting a lot when I was a kid, and I always wanted to be an artist, fine artist. So I decided to move to the States to study art, be a fine artist. So I came to this, the States, but somehow, obviously, I was living in Los Angeles. This is Hollywood. There's always film shooters going on, and I just kind of got into, working as a PA or something. That just because I was so interested in working on that film set. So gradually, how I got into it, and then, I wanted to use my artistic background, which I found the art department. So I started from that, PA and, assisting to a production designer. That's how I started.
Great. Great. You spoke a little bit about creative inspiration and how you were inspired by the escape that you had in cinema as a child. But who or what is your creative inspiration in the work that you're doing now? And that I'll start with Rika and I'll kind of go around to everybody.
I hate this question because this is so many and it's so hard, right? I need a minute, right, to think about. But I always, if someone asks me this question, I always, first person came up with is, it's not a designer, unfortunately. Because I'm so fascinated about cinematography, even though I'm not a cinematographer. I always love this Italian cinematographer's work. His name is Vittorio Strato. He he uses his lights as a paint. So he paints canvases with his lighting. That's how I see his work. It's so stunning and so beautiful, and it's very inspiring. Yeah, and other than that inspiration, my inspiration is always coming from different world, which is mostly music, because I love music, music, fashion, fine art, of course, because I love art. But uniquely enough, I love culinary arts, food. Because if you look at the modern food presentation, it's just really bizarre, artistic. It's just like an art form. And those, cross-disciplinarily is, I think that make the visual more unique.
Very interesting. You draw from so many different places, and that's what kind of makes everything so rich and unique.
Yeah, it's remix, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So Liz, your art is totally different from Rika's. So you're bringing in that physical world. So what are your inspirations for bringing that physicality into stories?
I draw a lot from my gymnastics background. I was a rhythmic gymnast, which is acrobatic dance using handheld apparatus. So that translates pretty well when it comes to handling weapons and props, as far as the approach, not the technique. So I draw a lot from that. But I also, I mostly draw from the environment that we're shooting in. I know that sounds a little weird and wacky, but no matter what the stunt is, you could do the exact same stunt for the exact same show on 2 different days, and it's going to be 2 completely different scenarios, situations. So I draw inspiration from the immediate environment. What is the character experiencing? What are they wearing? What is around them? What can we use in the immediate environment to tell that specific story? Because what I'm doing is I'm not just shooting cool stunts. Anybody can just go and point a camera at something cool, and you could watch YouTube all day full of that stuff. But when you're doing it to tell a story, I draw inspiration from all of the elements that are within that specific story at that particular time. Somebody that I am very inspired by, a stuntman named Sam Hargrave. You have probably heard of Extraction. That was his directorial debut. And what I absolutely love about Sam and what it is that he's doing is he's pushing the boundary of what we are physically capable of when you combine stunts with camera work, with that storytelling aspect. So he is doing really groundbreaking work that is so exhilarating. It's so exciting that you almost don't even want to blink because you don't want to miss anything. So I find that really inspiring because we're always looking for new ways to excite the audience. We're always looking for ways to genuinely engage them and make them care about what it is that we're doing. So I draw inspiration from the things that make people genuinely care, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So Amber, your role got to be very physical in this as well. You needed knee pads for camera operation, filming stunt scenes and all of that. So take creative inspiration from different areas as well in your work.
I think I find myself as an operator. I have to agree with Liz. I draw inspiration from the scene. I draw inspiration from the actors' mannerisms. And I try to be very intentional with my camera movement. So it's not just like, let's just shoot something cool. You know what I mean? Based on what Cliff Charles, he was our DP, sets up. And then I'm B camera, so I'm normally tighter. I'm normally tighter on my lens. Well, Alfeo, who's the A cam, is usually wider than me. And yeah, basically, like, what can I do best to serve the scene in the moment that's happening? And like drawing inspiration from rehearsal and how the lighting is set up and everything. Like, what are interesting things that also serves what's happening in the scene right now that's important to pick up. And that's, I think, as an operator, that's why I try to be very observant and just intentional about my moves. So.
Definitely important to, have that eye and, bring out things that other people may not be noticing. So definitely appreciate all of your work in all of your different areas and where your inspiration comes from. This is a favorite question of mine. I'd like to know about your first project in your role and how you've grown since then into, the artist, the technician, the, just the person that you are today. So if you want to, I'll just go back to Amber, and if you can tell us a little bit about your first project as an operator and then how you've grown since that time.
Got you. It's like, this is not an easy question to answer because then I think of like all the independent films I worked on. Definitely when I started operating, we didn't have anyone else to operate. It was independent film. I was doing cinematography, and I was just trying stuff out and going with my intuition, what felt good for my first union job. Weird. I am more intentional operator. I will say that. I'm learning to be more observant and making sure I read the scripts, that I just know what's going on. I'm more confident now, way more confident, and that helps because sometimes, like, you get on set and you have that whole imposter syndrome of like, am I supposed to be here? And that's something I'm still working out of. Like, I'm still a new operator. And I just dropped the earbud. But yeah, like, more confident, knowing that I'm here for a reason, and like that I'm playing a role and that I'm servicing this project. Because film is collaborative, and it's me just trying to do the best that I can do. So this can come out the best because it's like everyone's putting their hands into this. And, you just want to do what you can. So I would say I'm way more confident as a filmmaker, and I feel like when you're more confident, that makes you like do things you couldn't do before. You know what I mean? Because you trust yourself and you trust your instincts. So yeah,
that's great to see that growth in your path that you've experienced so far. RIKA, what about you? What was one of your first or early projects, and how have you grown since then?
I don't remember exactly which one is your first project, but around that time, that when you started, I've done a bunch of cheap non-union music videos. How you just started. I don't remember which was the first, but you literally, yes, maybe you can say art director, maybe, but you literally have to do everything, and you have to bring a lot of stuff from your home too, because you just don't have the money, just to make it happen. But it was a good practice because you just have to make it happen. You just be so creative. You have only certain amount of money to spend. So you just have to be creative to make it happen. Yeah. So those are the small music videos. Is just, my early work or for first to second jobs.
Yeah. And then how have you grown from that early work when you're doing everything yourself and bringing things from home and just really making ends meet in your roles into the artist that you are today? Like, how has that growth happened for you?
Well, It took a while. It didn't happen overnight, of course. You know, it's just to do a lot of work, a lot of jobs, and gradually you know the budget becomes bigger, and you know the show is going to be bigger. But I do a lot of different media. Like I do a lot of commercials as well, commercials, features, episodic. So it's you know you just do a lot. And then, like Amber said, my first union gig, I think it was a commercial, because it was easy for me to join the union to get on the certain days doing a bunch of commercial work. So that's how I got into union.
Great. What about you, Liz? Tell us about your early work, how that was, and how you grew from there.
It was awful. It was so bad. Joking. It's pretty bad. One of the very first projects that I ever did, it's actually a great cult classic called Dance of the Dead. When I say we had no money, I mean money. I got pretty badly injured, and there wasn't even ice to put on my injury. It was we were turning our pockets inside out to help make that one, and it ended up being a pretty enjoyable movie that I can look back on and laugh now finally. But it was really brutal, and I had no idea to what degree I was being exploited until much later. I didn't know crafty was a thing. I didn't know catering was a thing. I didn't know there was supposed to be a medic on set. Like I didn't know anything. And so I was essentially somebody's guinea pig, and got pretty badly injured in the process. So cut today, what I've learned, into all of the things that being on union shoot provides, like food and rest breaks and medical attention. I've learned that you get out what you put into it. And I know that seems, it seems kind of obvious, but since then, coming from the independent community, everybody gave their all. Like Rika was saying, people would show up with stuff from their house, anything that we could do to just make the project happen. And somewhere along the way, there are people who just, they punch a clock. And there's a spectrum. There are those of us that will show up with anything and everything to get the job done. And then there are some people just punching the clock. What I've learned is there's a happy balance in there. I don't ever want to be one of those people who forgets how lucky I am to be in this industry. Every single day is a gift, because every single day that I sign that G, I am unemployed all over again. So you really have to love what you do, because you have to chase it every single day. That being said, I've learned to strike that balance between I am so supremely grateful to be where I am, but not so much that I'm willing to be exploited, broken, or even just mentally shattered. There's a degree of preservation there that did not exist before. Because when I was in the indie community, I mean, I sent myself to the hospital multiple times because I was just trying that hard. And there were producers who were willing to exploit that. So finding that happy balance of existing with sincere gratitude, not the phony, act humble, like I am genuinely happy to be where I am, but I also know my value. I know what I bring to the table, and that's as much as I'm willing to give. Everything else has to come home with me, if that makes sense. So striking that balance is probably my biggest takeaway.
Can I add to that?
Absolutely.
And I learned this from Liz. Liz, you helped me learn this too. I am also learning the limits of my body and why that's important to just for a career as a camera operator. So because I will just go do it, and I have to learn no, you need to save your knees, So, and my Dolly Grip was really good with helping me like remember that and everything. My team. So, yeah.
Great. So that kind of helps us segue a little bit into one of my next questions, and some of the things that you've learned on your path. What advice would you give to somebody who is interested in being the next Rika and the next Amber and the next Liz? What's advice for people that are up and coming after you? And we'll start with Amber this time.
That's so weird. I would say in camera, you just want to be very observant. You want to be very observant. You want to trust being able to anticipate what people need. And just shoot on the weekends, like shoot as much as possible, you know? Have that time where it's not just a job and you're able to play with it and be creative. Because I feel like you need that if it's something you like doing. Like, again, it's versus like someone who's like punching in, like to keep like the spirit of creating, like, you know, just create on weekends and like have fun with it. But also, yeah, just be observant, anticipate, and just pay attention. I feel like that's all. A lot of camera is just like being observant and seeing what's going on, and you know, being aware of your environment, your surroundings, and your environment. And also it's collaborative. It's a team. Everyone there, especially in camera, everyone's there to help out. So yeah, that's all I got.
So Rika, what's your advice?
So first and foremost, you have to be a very nice person. It's just that it sounds so simple, but it's right. Yes. I mean, because this is all people, you know, work together in the same space, sometimes for 5 and 6 months. And then sometimes it's really hard to be a nice person always, just because you're under a lot of stress and you work long hours, you get tired and nasty, and then I get it. But you know, at the end, this is the collaboration and community you work with. And if you have a real bad vibe or nasty attitude, you just don't want to work with. So it sounds very simple, but I think it's really, really important.
Yeah. Sometimes those simple things are things that people just really need to hear and take in. Liz, yeah. What's your advice for up and coming stunt coordinators?
Don't do it. Run away. Run now. It's and again, I'm mostly kidding. I do want to build on what Rika was saying, because it just is so crucially important. What Amber was saying before about how approachable everybody was, that's why we got to the finish line and you know are able to be proud of what we were able to do, because people were approachable. And it just, I cannot emphasize it enough. You can be taught the skills that you need in each department, but if you are not approachable, if you cannot be diplomatic, if then you cannot be around that many people for that length of time. It just will not work, and it will read in the final product. So I don't want to tell people what not to do. I will say, first and foremost, do your homework. It is your job to know the things that you do not know. It is not forgivable. It is not okay to show up and have something fall apart, and the answer to that is, well, I didn't know. It's your job to know. There is a high price tag that comes with a stunt player or a stunt coordinator. So I would recommend, if you are wanting to get into either of those things, which you absolutely have to be a performer before you coordinate. You must. You have to know what it is that you're asking people to do. Do your homework. Know the things. Anticipate, like Amber was saying. And for the first couple of years, I strongly recommend keeping your mouth shut and just keeping your eyes and ears open. If you are not sure about something, write it down and go look it up later. The first couple of years that I was on set, I'm like, what's a dolly grip? So I would go write that down, and I would go research it. I would go figure it out. If you're standing on set and you don't know what it means, if somebody calls points, guess what? You're going to get hit in the back of the head, because that means that somebody's walking through with equipment. So know the lingo, know film language. We have Google now. There is no reason to not know. And if you want to be one of those people that gets paid a nice paycheck, ask yourself, what is it that I bring to the table that makes me worth getting paid that much? Because if you cannot answer the question, how is your department head? How is the producer? How is anyone else going to know your value if you don't know your value? So, for example, I know that, well, I had, this many years of competitive gymnastics. So I have this discipline, I have this work ethic, I have this particular skill set. I sent myself to driving training. I did over 100 body burns before I ever solicited myself to be a stunt performer, to get hired to do a body burn. So like Amber was saying, do the things on the weekends, build up your craft, build up your value, so that by the time you go around and start submitting headshots and resumes, you know your value and you're not having to convince anybody of anything. If you are of value, you will get used. There could be 1,000 productions going on. And in Atlanta, at any given time, there's hundreds of productions going on. There is enough work for everybody. If you have value to add, you will get used. So be persistent. Understand that it's not a job. Being in the film industry, this is not a job. This is a lifestyle. And you have to understand everything that entails. It affects your family dynamics. It affects your friendships. It affects your diet. It affects your sleep. So know what it is that you're getting into. Research as much as you can. And if you walk around with your hand out, you're probably not going to get much given to you. But if you walk around offering, hey, this is what I could be doing for you. This is what value I can add. I have these things that I can contribute. If you demonstrate your value and you're sincere about it, you will get picked up. You will get used. You will build relationships that will serve you well. So I can't emphasize it enough. Do your homework. Utilize all of these resources that we didn't have when we first started. I actually had to look in a newspaper and look at audition notices. So we've come a long, long way. Use the technology, use the resources. And when RIKA says, be nice, like be sincerely nice, and you will get back what you put out.
That's
I want to
all.
Yeah, I want to add a
please,
few
Rika.
things. Yeah, because it's just that I just didn't mention about particularly art department things. How I learn is just being, art department assistant. I mean, called PA, I guess, art PA. You're just being there. You just learn so much, and you just have to witness all the daily problems, because there's just so many problems daily, and those are not in the textbook. Even though you go to film school, it's not listed, and then you just don't know what it is. But there's so many problems, and then how you solve it within a time frame is the key to execute all this, sets or props or set deco, all these elements. And then, like Leigh said, if it's just talking about Atlanta, there's so many productions are going on. If it's not paid gig, even the volunteer, intern, you learn so much just being in the department and just witness it, how people solve the problems. And then you see so many, even those small things, when you print out some graphic posters, picking up, matte paper or glossy paper. Why they're not picking a glossy paper? Because it's, reflection, so much reflection for the camera, lighting. So, you're picking up the matte paper, stuff like that. It's not, you don't really learn that details in the textbook, I believe. So just being there and just witness everything is just probably the best way to learn. And then with a great attitude and eager and willing to learn, and then people watching, if you really have that attitude, Yeah.
Can I ask something, Nicole?
Absolutely, Amber. Go ahead.
Something like specific to camera. Camera's very technical, and camera's not a fake it till you make it department. Like, like Liz was saying, researching. But I learned if I didn't know something, I asked, and not being afraid to ask someone. And also like flexibility and learning to adapt, because you're going on different shows and you're working with different people. You're not going to work with the same people all the time. And sometimes it's hard for people to adapt to the different ways other people do things. So learning how to adapt and being flexible, I think, is really important also.
Amber, I miss you so much. I was actually going to say the exact same thing, because stunts, for sure, it is not a fake it till you make it department. That is, it's potentially hugely catastrophic. So definitely don't want to fake it at all. I was also going to add, be very, very honest about your capabilities. So when you are soliciting yourself as a stunt performer, if you are even the slightest bit unsure of whether or not you're able to do a thing, the answer is no, you cannot do it under pressure with 150 people watching you when we gotta go. It's a very high pressure environment. And so there is a certain personality, there's a certain amount of confidence that you have to have as well, and that only comes with time and experience. So for people who are just getting in on the ground floor, especially doing stunts, I strongly recommend find other people that are at about the same point in your development in your career, and work with each other. Get together on the weekends, and always have somebody holding a camera, because you're not just practicing throwing punches at each other. You're selling things to the camera. You're having that third dance partner. So practice on your own, get together, learn things together, and learn from your collective wisdom, because life and your career is way too short to figure all the things out all by yourself.
And that is a great segue to the next part of our conversation. Our audience wants to learn from all of your collective wisdom. They've been placing questions in the chat. And audience, if you've got more questions, please put them in the chat, and I will try to get to as many as possible before we're wrapping up today. But I want to take it back to set. And Josh has asked, what has been your favorite moment on set this season? We'll start with RIKA.
For this season, a favorite moment?
Yes.
I can't just say a moment, but each set, when you open, and then new set or new location or whatever, then actor comes in, do a rehearsal, and then all the camera, lighting, and this is choreography, yada yada yada, all that, and then everything come together, and then camera started to roll. That it's just like a great moment, because you sort of like you deliver, what you needed, and then it looks so beautiful. So then, okay, next, and then next. So just repetitively you keep doing that, but each time that's just the greatest moment.
Amber, what about you? What's been your favorite moment on set?
Can we do spoilers? I feel like I'm a spoil.
I gave them a spoiler alert, so if anybody hasn't caught up, cover your ears.
Okay, I'll do a moment that stands out to me. We did the bus scene, and then we had to do this bus rig where we rigged the camera on the top of from the top of the bus inside, and the whole shot was me pulling back the camera through the lift of the bus, and I was really excited to shoot that. It's like so many, because we got the chance. Cliff gave me a chance to play and like experiment on this, but my favorite, when I'm like really get excited, is when we're gonna shoot a stunt scene, when we're gonna shoot a fight scene. Every time I'm like, here we go. So yeah, I'll say that I love shooting fight scenes and stunt scenes. I discovered that on this show, so I really appreciate that. Yeah.
So Liz, what's your favorite?
There were a couple of pinnacle moments But the general theme was, I'll use one of Casey's moments in particular. As you know, she did a lot of her own action. She did so much training, so much developing. And at the beginning of the season, she let me know what her goals were. And I'm doing my best to like preserve her her privacy as well. But there were specific goals that she had. And there was this one pinnacle moment, I won't spoil anything, but we had worked this one particular part of a particular fight, and she is a workhorse. This girl, her work ethic, it made my job so much more enjoyable. When I say she took this character to heart, I'm incredibly proud of what Casey has done. But there was a pinnacle moment where she was very unsure of her moment in this fight. But when we shot it and we let her, I basically took like a very short video on my phone so that she could see what she looked like. Mm-hmm. And the look on her face of, oh my God, that's what I look like? That it was almost like watching her paradigm shift right in front of my eyes and watching her step into that next phase of her confidence. It was such a wonderful moment because it wasn't just Casey the actress and it wasn't just Naomi the character. There was this beautiful amalgam happening right in front of my eyes, watching this young girl blossom into this very capable young lady. I'm a little emotional because she's she's one of the actresses that I have taken the most, I've given the most attention to, because she was a minor and because, she's number one and she's in pretty much every scene, every single setup. I really wanted to protect her as much as possible and spare her from any unnecessary exertion. So I always wanted to use a double where I could to just help her out and support her. Casey worked so hard. She went so above and beyond. And not just her, but Cranston and Alexander. They did so much of my job for me because they took it upon themselves to really, really learn as much as they could. So the pinnacle moments for me was watching the revelation happening in their faces when they saw what they looked like on screen. When they were like, oh my God, that was me? I did that? And it fills my heart in such a way that I don't even have words. It's a pride and joy that I can't even explain. But there's also a huge amount of relief because what it is that we're asking them to do is, potentially dangerous. So to come out the other side and to have it be what I consider very successful, everyone's healthy, everyone's sound. But having that, oh my God, that was me moment and helping to create that was absolutely pinnacle for me.
That's so nice and ties in so well to the story of, characters learning who they are and learning their power and learning what they can do. And it's nice to see that happened in the creation of the show as well as in the story that even people watching to see. And I think it really shines through. So thank you all for giving those parts of yourself in those moments and, just bringing that to the audience and the rest of us. We only have about 4 minutes left. So I want to kind of switch gears a little bit and ask, this is a fun question from Annabelle. If you could try out any other position on set other than the one that you currently work in, what would it be? So we're going to job swap a little bit. So what would you choose to do instead of stunt coordinating? Liz, we'll start with you.
Put a camera in my hands. I want Amber and I to start a whole new crew of stunt camera operators, but I absolutely love camera operating. I think it is It's that you are the audience's POV. You're another character. It's really dynamic. It is really technical, and you do have to be athletic. Like that's a heavy load that you're carrying. So if not stunts, I would love to be a camera operator, and failing that, I wouldn't mind directing.
Amber, what about you? If not camera, then what would it be for you?
And you're gonna feel like I'm saying this just because they're in the interview with me. If not camera, I probably would have been in the art department.
Yay.
I majored in art in college, and that's my background is art. And I love being stunts. I'm like an adrenaline junkie, so it would be art or the stunt department. So, yeah.
Great.
I keep that in my mind, Amber. I keep that in my mind for my next book. Well, like an earlier question, I really admire cinematographers' work. And I'm fascinated in lighting. So if I can be, yes, probably cinematographer, but I'm so far away from all this technical stuff, but it's just visually, I'm just, I think lighting creates a mood and tone of the visuals, I believe. I mean, yes, sets and all the other elements. Yeah, so I guess, cinematographer would be my ideal position if I could.
Very interesting. So our final question from Kelly, and it's going to be kind of a rapid fire kind of question, but at the end of these, we'd like to make a list of kind of recommended works that you would have our crew members check out so that they can learn and they can grow. So if you want to give your top 1 to 3 films that you would recommend, and we'll go around again. We'll start with Amber.
Oh gosh, this is a hard question. Okay, Eve's Bayou. I love Interview with the Vampire. It's one of my favorite movies. That and Eve's Bayou, and also a show that I'm actually like Legion on FX. I thought the cinematography on that was amazing. So I have a lot more, but this is the first thing that's popped in my head.
We'll go to top 3. We'll go to top 3. Okay. What about you, Liz? Top 1, 3 film.
Well, for women in particular who are interested in stunts, I would recommend, I think it's called Double Dare. And it features my hero, Jeannie Epper. And it sheds a lot of light on the world that you're wanting to get into. And tells you a lot about where we came from. Stunts has definitely come a long, long way, just in my generation. So to hear from Jeannie, who she's in her 70s and she hits the ground harder than people half her age. She really is just absolutely incredible. She was Linda Carter's stunt double for Wonder Woman. So that's a good one to watch. When it comes to an action film, I really suggest Ong Bak. It has, watch it and you'll understand why. Yeah, this is a hard question to answer.
Yeah.
I might have to think a little bit more about the third one. But the first one's a documentary. The second one is a fiction story. And then I'll plead the fifth on the third one. I'll have to think about it a little bit more.
So Kelly came with the stumper question. What about you, Rika? What are some films that you would recommend?
First of all, I should have get this question previously so I can prepare. I can't just think of anything top 3. I need a moment, but I can just tell you top 1. Again, the same thing. I do love this cinematographer's work, Vittorio Storaro. And one of the movies he shot is called Conformist. It's an Italian film. It's 1970s classic. But everything about the film, composition, lighting, design, art department, it's just sort of like masterpiece. So if is anybody who's studying film, design, lighting. I think this is a must-watch film.
That's your one to watch. Well, our one to watch is NAOMI, which will be returning on April 26th. So everybody set your DVRs, get your schedule cleared, and get ready to watch NAOMI coming back April 26th. And I want to thank you all again. Thank you, Rika. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Liz, so much for giving your time this evening to speak with Array crew, and this morning for you, Rika, to speak with the Array crew, and just giving all those gems of wisdom for getting started in the industry, having that amazing attitude, having that observation skills, and just, you know, drawing from everything in your background to bring it into the story. So again, I appreciate your time. Thanks to all of our audience for watching, and have a wonderful night.